New Life family, welcome to church. We are so glad that you are here today, and I have a special message for you all. The ushers and greeter teams from all the different services wanted me to tell you all hi. They wanted me to give you virtual hugs. They wanted me to tell you that they miss you and that they are praying for you. So consider yourselves all properly greeted today. So I hope you all are doing well. And last week we were challenged on asking what worship song right now is keeping you going. And I just want to tell you, you guys rock. I loved all of the different songs. And the one that I am really listening to, Hannah suggested, and it's Graves into Gardens by Elevation Worship. So for today, before we get ready to go into worship, let us know that you're here and share with me what is keeping you encouraged this week. And for me, it was our midweek worship and hearing Pastor Sharn pray. I just needed that, just this calmness in my spirit. So right now, would you either just stand up or right where you're sitting or kneel and just shake it all off? Let's just shake off the worries that we came in with today, maybe the anger, maybe the grief, or maybe just you're grumpy. And let's just shake it off and enter into a time of worship with God because He is so worthy and He meets us right where we're at.
And bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul, worship His holy name, sing like whatever may pass and whatever strong and worship you. And if it puts me in the fire, I'll rejoice 'cause you're there too. I won't be formed by feelings, I'll hold fast to what is true. 'Cause if the cross brings transformation, you can hang me there with you. 'Cause death is just a doorway into resurrection life. And if I join you in your suffering, then I'll join you when you rise. And when you return to glory with all the angels and the saints, my heart will still be singing, my song will be the same. Oh, Christ be magnified, let his praise arise. Christ be magnified in me. And oh, Christ be magnified from the altar of my life. Christ be magnified in me. Jesus, we want to see you glorified. God, we thank you that when we sing these songs, God, we're declaring your glory. We're declaring your rule. God, we're declaring your praise over all the earth. Jesus, I pray that as a people of love, God, that we would get back to the basics. God, you taught us how to pray. And so when chaos surrounds us, God, and we don't know what's next, we don't know what the future holds, God, we pray with these words that you left us that say, "Our Father in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen." Lord, I pray that wherever we are, whatever space we're in, if we're in a strange head space, if we're in a weird emotional place, if we're in a different spiritual place than being present with you, I pray that all of that would drift away and that we would get back to the basics of surrendering all that we have and all that we are to you. We love you and we praise you. Amen. Atmosphere is changing now, for the Spirit of the Lord is here. The evidence is all around that the Spirit of the Lord is here, overflowing this place. Fill our hearts with your love. Your love surrounds us. You're the reason we came to encounter your love. Your love surrounds us. The atmosphere is changing now, for the Spirit of the Lord is here. The evidence is all around that the Spirit of God, fall fresh on us. We need your presence. Your kingdom come, your will be done, here as in evidence is all around that the Spirit of the Lord is here. be magnified in me. And oh, Christ be magnified. Let his praise arise. Christ be magnified in me. Oh, Christ be magnified from the altar of my life. Christ be magnified in me. Yes. Jesus, we love you and we thank you. Be magnified in our lives. It's in your name we worship. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
We hope worship really spoke to you today, especially if you're new. And if you're new to us, welcome. We are so glad that you are here. In the old days, just a few months ago, we would have invited you out to the patio to our Welcome Central to meet somebody face to face, help get you connected, and give you a gift. So the good news is that we still want to help you get connected and get to know you, and we do have a gift for you. We would love for you to hit the I'm New button on our website, and we will get a hold of you. So speaking of getting connected, we have 4 opportunities for you. For the women, we have a new online book club starting, and Pastor Dave is starting Footsteps of Paul number 3. You can get information on that on our website. Also, Pastor Jared is continuing the Bible study on Tuesday nights, and on Fridays, it's a great way to end your week and connect with Pastor David with Coffee with Our Pastor. For all of this, you can look online and for registration. Another way to connect with us is through giving. We are so committed to helping our community during this time, and because of you, we are able to feed and bless those right now all around us. And Tuesday night at our pantry, we were able to serve over 86 cars. So thank you so much. And also that we were almost running out of food Tuesday, and we put out the emergency call, and boy, did you guys answer. And we are just so appreciative. So Mother's Day is next Sunday, May 10th, and we wanted to take the opportunity to celebrate big all of the women at New Life. So next Sunday from 1 to 3 in our parking lot, we are going to have a drive-through party extravaganza. So all are welcome. We will be within the social distancing, but we are going to have fun. So please plan on attending. Also, if you cannot leave your home or you know somebody that can't attend but would be blessed by a gift and some showering of love, please fill out the form on our website and we will deliver. Another opportunity that we have that day are porch portraits. We want to just kind of take advantage of this time so that you will always remember this Mother's Day. So we will drive to your home and take a picture. You can wear your pajamas, you can dress up, however that you feel that day. But again, we do need you to sign up and register for that. So please visit our website for all information on Mother's Day. Okay, so if you're like me, you may not know what day it is or what month it is. So let me tell you, we are officially in May, and we have a couple big days coming up. Monday is May the 4th. So may the 4th be with you. And maybe it's a great day to catch up on all those Star Wars movies. And that means Tuesday is Cinco de Mayo. I hope you have tacos. I hope you bring me tacos. But another really great thing happening that day is it's Pastor David's birthday. So I didn't feel it was appropriate to share this year how old he's turning, but he did turn 40 last year. So nothing says happy birthday like balloons, especially red ones. So Pastor David, we love you, and we are so glad that you are here right now. We know this is the perfect time that God wanted you to be here leading us. Happy birthday.
When you live life with someone for 13 years, there's a lot you miss about them.
I miss having my friend David around. I miss his wisdom in our conversations. And I miss knowing that if we're standing talking to a group of people, it only takes a couple minutes and I look around and he's missing.
I miss the Jeep adventure with Uncle David.
Happy birthday, David. Such a privilege being in ministry with you. We thank you for your leadership and the way that you love the Lord and your family. And however many years ago it was that you were born, we're glad that you were born. Happy birthday.
Hey! Well, I gotta say, over the last couple of years, it has been awesome to get to know you. And I appreciate quite a few things about you, but one of my favorite things is to be under your leadership, to learn from you, to be encouraged from you. I love you and I love your family, and so I just hope you have a great day. Happy birthday, and I hope this is a wonderful year for you.
Happy birthday!
Hi, Uncle David. I really miss hearing grace and peace to you. We'll see you next week at the end of every message.
And I miss those really yummy smoothies you used to make for all of us.
Happy birthday.
Hey David, I miss doing ministry with you, man. I miss being creative together. I miss watching Ohio State football games together. And we miss going out and celebrating your birthday on Cinco de Mayo at some great Mexican restaurant and having some moist chocolate cake.
Hey David, we really miss the way that you turn our frowns upside down and the way that you laugh at our amazingly funny jokes, even if it's a courtesy. Happy birthday, David.
One thing that we love about David is
his kids. And also, Christmas, we love that he's an amazing role.
Hey, New Life, Pastor Jason Whalen here from Grace Bible Church. I want to thank you for moving a friend into town for me. And that's exactly what you were up to. You know Jason needed a friend, and you sent me a great one. Dave and Dana, we love them and their family. Happy birthday, Dave. And you know what? I want to tell you, you were right. The first time I met you, I thought, man, this is a confident guy. I think you told about 8 of us you were meeting with to introduce yourself. You said, you know, I could preach circles around Billy Graham, and I'll be the greatest leader the Central Coast has ever seen. And you guys are going to marvel at what you see. And I thought, wow, this guy sure is confident. He sure knows what he wants to do. And you know what, Dave? You are definitely all of those things. And New Life Church is blessed to have you as their leader, and I am blessed to have you as my friend. We love you, buddy. Have a great day. You deserve the best. And New Life Church, we love you too. God bless you. Grace Bible Church is out.
Hey, New Lifers, we are so glad that you have chosen to join us once again for this online worship experience. We've been tracking through this series called Unscripted and been asking ourselves, what does life look like when it goes off script, and how do we respond? In fact, Pastor Gina last week gave an incredible message about how to respond in joy and ways that we can respond when things don't go quite like what we thought they were going to go. And so I want to wrap things up this week by asking ourselves a couple of really critical questions as it relates to when life goes unscripted. And the first question is this: what questions will we ask? And so when life goes off script, we have to kind of wrestle with this idea that there will be questions that we will ask in that pivotal moment that will shape our ability to move forward. And let me give you 3 questions that I think that we ask, and we're going to spend a little bit of time here and the majority of the time on the final question. And the first question is this: what happened? So when life goes off script and things get a little bit crazy and things happen that we weren't expecting to happen, one of the questions that we have to ask ourselves is, how did I get here, right? Like, what happened that got me to this particular moment? And so wrestling with us and asking ourselves, what do I do now? And how did I get here? And what were the circumstances that led me to this particular point are going to be critical when life goes off script. The second question is, what is happening? And so in light of the current circumstances, what's my next step going to be? And so based on what's happening in my life right now, how do I determine the next wise step so that, I don't continue to repeat a pattern of maybe unhealthy behavior, or I don't make a mistake in this new season, or I don't find myself going down a road I wish I wouldn't have gone down. And then the third question is, what do I hope will happen? Now that things haven't gone the way that you thought they were, now that things have gone off script, what do you hope happens on this new trajectory? What are the desires that you have? What are the dreams that you have? What are the things that you hope this new trajectory will take you towards? And so these questions that we ask ourselves become critical when life goes off script. But here's what's just as critical, if not maybe even more critical, to ask ourselves when things go off script. And it's this question here: who will be at your table when life goes off script? Who will be at your table? I use this table metaphor because in my life specifically, I have spent a ton of time around tables, building relationships and friendships and inviting people to lunches and for coffee and to say, hey, can you come over to my house? When I haven't quite understood where my life was going, or I had questions about life or parenting or marriage or career or ministry and finances, any number of things, I have invited people to my table to speak into my life when I was unsure about things, when I needed wisdom, when I wanted people to speak into my life. And so the people that are at your table will eventually have influence and will shape your answers to the questions I mentioned just a moment ago. So like when you ask yourself, what happened? How did I get here? And for some of us, we know like we made a mess of it or something, a crisis happened in our life and we know. But other times we're like, I'm not quite sure. I don't know where I went off track, and you're going to need the right people at the table that can speak into your life to help you decide that. Otherwise, you'll just keep repeating the same maybe poor decisions over and over again. When we're asking ourselves what is happening and we're trying to take inventory of what to do next, we need the right people at the table so that we hopefully will find ourselves back onto kind of a new normal and a healthy way forward as quickly as possible. And when we think about what will happen, your dreams and your passions and the way that you want to see your life trajectory go from that moment when it went off script and you decided, like we said a couple of weeks ago, to pivot. When you pivot, you need to ask yourself, hey, if I have the same people at my table that I had before I pivoted, my life's not going to transform. But if I surround myself with new people, there's an opportunity for me to seek wisdom from individuals and to have a new trajectory for my life. Actually, let me put it to you this way. If you could go back to a pivotal moment in your life when it went off script, whether it was for something that you did or whether it was something that was done to you or a crisis you weren't expecting, if you could go back to that moment and things not only went off script, but they didn't turn out like you thought that they were, and they even got a little bit more gnarly than what they actually could have or should have when things went off script, if you could go back to that moment and you could take out to lunch or you could ask someone for coffee or invite them over for dinner, and you could have that person at your table before you went any further down that road, how might your life have looked different? Like when you think to a relationship that you kind of dove in on and life went off script with that particular relationship and you just tried to figure out stuff by yourself, who could you think of right now that you said, man, if that person would have been in my life, if that person could have spoken into me, my life might have looked different. Maybe it's a financial decision you made and you tried to figure it out. You were too embarrassed to maybe ask for help or share with anybody what was going on. And you go, man, if I would have had somebody who was wiser, somebody who was more financially astute than what I was, I wouldn't have taken out that loan or I wouldn't have got myself in that mess. Maybe it's a business decision you made early on. Life went off script and you could have saved the business and you could have done things differently, but you didn't. You just kind of went full force ahead. But if you could have said, hey, so-and-so, man, you have launched many successful businesses. I want to give you a seat at my table and I want you to speak wisdom into me. How might your life have looked different? See, we want those people there because we believe that if they would have been there in that critical moment when life went off script, we might have saved ourselves some harm. We might have saved ourselves some difficulty. We might have saved ourselves some tears and frustration along the way. And while we know that in our heart and we know that in our mind, here's what I have observed. That when life goes off script, here's what we tend to do. We don't gather people around our table. We actually tend to isolate. Let me say that again. When life goes off script, unfortunately what we tend to do is not gather people around our table, and specifically the right people around our table. What we tend to do is we isolate ourselves. We isolate ourselves because we feel alone and we're like, man, nobody will understand what I'm going through. Nobody's going to get what I am experiencing. And when we isolate ourselves, we have a propensity to then make rash decisions because we're scared and we're fearful and all these things are coming and we're just trying to grasp at straws of what we need to do in order to move forward. We isolate ourselves because in some situations, let's get really honest, in some situations, we isolate ourselves and we don't invite anybody to the table and we don't ask for wisdom because we're ashamed. We're looking at ourselves saying, oh, man, I don't want anybody to know the mess I've gotten myself in. I don't want anybody to know the that I'm off script and things aren't working out. Like I told everybody that things were going well and now they're not going well. And so we avoid letting anybody know. Sometimes we don't invite people to the table because we're fearful. And because we're fearful, we want to hunker down and we want to try to figure things out on our own, and we're scared, and so we just block everybody else out and we just kind of keep to ourselves. And sometimes we don't invite people to our table because, to be quite honest, we just feel stupid. We think, I should have known better. In fact, people told me. I had some of the right people at my table and I didn't listen to them. I should have just known better. Can I tell you something? When life goes off script, it is no time to isolate and it's no time to socially distance yourself. Rather, it's actually a time to surround yourself with a support system. It's time to say, hey, who are the people that I need at my table to help me answer those critical questions about how I got myself into this, and what are the circumstances that are surrounding me, and then what are the opportunities and dreams and passions that could come out of this that maybe I didn't notice before. And so I come back to it. Maybe you're thinking about, launching into adulthood and you're a student getting ready to do that. Maybe you're thinking about your high school career. Maybe you're thinking about a new business. Maybe you're in a position where you're thinking about, hey, my business has been shut down for the last 7 weeks and I'm not quite sure how to relaunch it in a healthy and strong way, or care for my employees, or apply for the second wave of that payroll protection plan, or any number of things that you're looking at. And you're going, man, who do I need at my table in order to navigate this crisis? Who do I need at my table now that life has gone off script? And our relationships play an incredibly important role in our lives when life goes off script. Incredibly important role. See, we may not get to choose what happens in our life, but we get to choose who we go through what happens in our life. We get to choose the people that sit down at our table and help us navigate the things that go on in our lives. And here's what you don't want to do. You do not want to play musical chairs when the crisis happens, when things go off script. You do not want to play musical chairs with who's at your table. Like, you're not just hoping you get the right people at the table. You're not waiting until the music stops and going, oh man, I wish that person would have exited my game and somebody else would have sat down. You actually want to be incredibly intentional about who gets a seat at your table. In fact, the Bible talks about and reveals this idea of being intentional about the voices you allow at your table, the voices you allow to speak into your life. I attend a lot of weddings and I officiate a lot of weddings, and I go to the reception afterwards, and it's interesting. Sometimes, the bride and the groom and the family will put together kind of random selections of people to be at the reception tables. But when it comes to me, I think almost every time I've ever been in a wedding, they are crazy intentional about what table I sit at, mostly because they're afraid that I'll make somebody at the table nervous, or they'll find out what I do, or any number of things. And so they either try to sit me with people I already know, or with somebody that maybe is a believer or a Christian, and I get it. I understand why that happens. But in the same way, when life goes off script, we need to be crazy intentional about the types of people that we allow to have a seat at our table, the types of people that we're going to invite to speak into our lives. And so in the book of Proverbs, the wisest man who had ever lived, Solomon, begins to pen and talk to us about the different types of people that you can be, or the different types of people that will eventually be able to speak into our life, who we invite to speak into our life. And it's interesting because it's almost as if Solomon had, people would come to him all the time seeking wisdom and advice. And it's almost like he took a tally of the types of people that came into his life and the types of people he would speak to. And he kind of narrowed the people who would respond to his wisdom in kind of 4 different categories. And I want to use those categories to talk about the types of people who will be at your table or have the potential to be at your table. And I want to begin with one that we don't always commonly think about. And this is the person at the table that sometimes we don't even realize it's not a good thing to have them, because they're not mean and it's not like they're malicious or anything. But Solomon calls this person the simple person. Solomon calls this person the simple person. And what's interesting about the simple person is that they're not dumb. It's not that they're just like dumb or stupid. Solomon refers to them in this type of way. They're the naive, clueless person. And they're not naive and clueless because they're dumb or they just can't comprehend it. They're naive and clueless because, to be quite honest, they're most likely young and they lack experience. Now, I know I just offended some of our young people out there because they're like, man, I don't lack experience. I'm tired of people telling me that I lack experience. I'm just letting you know that the wisest man who ever lived said there are times in our lives where every single one of us lacks experience. And here's what you can take as encouragement. Every single one of your parents, your grandparents, every older person who you're looking at in your room and you're saying, man, don't look at me as a simple person. Every single one of us at some point in our life has been the simple person. But here's what you also need to know about the simple person. That they can find themselves in destruction really quickly and they don't even realize it. I don't have time to read through this entire passage, but I'm going to give you kind of the synopsis version. In Proverbs chapter 7, Solomon sums up this idea of a boy getting ready on a walk, and he basically finds himself in an incredibly gnarly, messy situation. And guess what? He doesn't even realize it. Like he has people trying to draw him in and destroy his life, and his eyes are wide and he just doesn't see it, and he doesn't see all the dangers around him. I mean, from a biblical sense, this is like the original reality TV. It's like, when you watch reality TV and you see someone doing something and you're like, man, do not, or a horror movie, you're like, don't go into that room. Yeah, Pastor watches horror movies. At least I did back in the day. But you know what I'm talking about, right? You see someone, they're going in a direction and it's going to be a train wreck and you see it coming, but they don't see it. And so in this passage, this individual, this boy, begins to walk through the city and he begins to be enticed and he's walking into a train wreck and he doesn't realize it, but the author realizes it. In fact, the author describes it this way. This person is like an ox being led to the slaughter, a bird flying in a snare. In fact, at the end, the author says, your actions, you might have not meant this, you might have not intended this, but your actions, because you're naive, because you don't see what the real danger is, your actions are about to ruin your life. Let me put it maybe this way. Every single older person has at some time or another heard a younger, simple person utter the words, I will never. And when they said, I will never, they rolled their eyes. Like they looked at you and they're like, you have no clue. You have no idea. In fact, I try not to roll my eyes, but I'll have newlyweds who come and they'll come to my, for premarital counseling, and they love each other and everything's going well. I'm like, hey, do you guys argue very much? No, we never argue. I don't think we'll ever argue. Marriage is going to be easy. And I try not to roll my eyes, but I'm sitting here going, yeah, that's a really simple person right there. And that's not mean. It just means you haven't lived yet. You don't know the challenges that come with marriage and the difficulties that come with marriage. Sometimes you have individuals and you've seen them or you've heard them, and before they have kids, you're like, man, I'll never parent my kids like my parents parented me, or I'll never say that to my kids. And then all of a sudden you're parenting one day and the same words that you said you would never come out of your mouth, all of a sudden come out of your mouth to your kids. Or I'll never have any regrets. I'm going to live a life with no regrets. You haven't lived yet. Because every life lived has at some point gone, I wish I wouldn't have done that. I might have learned from it, but I wish I could take that moment back. And the problem is that when your life goes off script, you're the simple person. And so the challenge is that because you're simple, because you have never been in that situation, because you're not quite sure what the future holds, you're not quite sure what to do, it is silly to invite other simple people who don't know what they're doing and don't know where you're going to your table and seek wisdom from that. You've never been there before, so why invite someone to your table to speak wisdom into you who hasn't been there also? Because you're simple. You won't necessarily always see it. But here's some clues that maybe the simple person sitting at your table, here's some of the phrases that sometimes that they utilize. And let me back up for just a second and say, students specifically, sometimes as students, sometimes as young adults, we want to look to our peers for wisdom. Can I just tell you something? They are the other simple people. They are the other simple people. And so one of the ways that you can decipher whether or not somebody is a simple person is oftentimes they will tell you you're overreacting to the situation. And kind of like in a condescending way, like you're overreacting. The problem is you may be overreacting, but when life goes off script, you might not be overreacting because you don't know the future. And so the fact that you are having kind of a heightened awareness that things are challenging right now might actually be an okay thing and an okay reaction. Also, they're the types of people that will say, nothing is going to happen. You'll be fine. Maybe, but maybe not. If I don't think about things in a new way, if I don't kind of redirect my life, if I don't try something new, if I just do the same thing over and over again, I won't be fine. And so here's what I know about our culture. Our culture has a tendency to roll their eyes at kind of an older generation sometimes. Our culture has a tendency sometimes for younger people to go, you know what, I can figure this out on my own. I'll do my own thing. I don't need in fact, there's a phrase for it. It's the okay boomer. And sometimes, to be quite honest, boomers, sometimes you deserve it. I'll be honest. There's some times where I'm like, man, you need to kind of, back off a little bit. But I have found in my life that I need those people who have wisdom, and I better not roll my eyes at them because they have my best interest in mind. They care about me. They have this desire to see me succeed. And so one of the things when it comes to seeking wisdom and having and deciding who's at your table is that we have to have humility. We have to have humility and say, man, I can't figure this out. And not only can I not figure this out, but I'm not sure any of my friend group can figure this out. And so who am I going to go to and ask who's a little further ahead of me, who has a little bit greater wisdom than I do, or anybody in my friend group, about how to navigate this particular situation? And again, our culture is not going to encourage this. They're going to encourage you to kind of hunker down or figure it out yourself or try to keep it quiet. And you're going to have to decide, who is it at my table that is going to speak wisdom into me? Who are the people that I want at my table? And I can just tell you, the simple person is not someone, when life goes off script, that's not someone you want at your table. The second person that Solomon talks about in terms of who we surround ourselves with and who can sometimes be at our table is the fool. And the fool is interesting because the fool, according to Solomon throughout the book of Proverbs, knows what is wise, but doesn't care. Like the fool's the person that kind of steps back and says, hey, I get it. I know what you should do. And I have wisdom and I have kind of the wise way to go. But man, you do what you want. You just kind of go with what you want. The fool's at your table and says, man, I know wisdom, but I don't care. Or I don't fill in the blank, whatever word you want to use. I don't give a whatever. Like he's the person or she's the person that sits at your table and they just lead you astray. The fool will always lead you astray. They're the one that looks at you and says, hey, you don't care about anybody else. Your life is off script, or you want your life to go off script, or this crisis happened, or whatever. You just do you. They're also the person that sits at your table and says, your actions won't affect anyone. You just worry about yourself. Your actions aren't going to affect anyone. But Solomon, again, the wisest person who ever lived, says this in Proverbs chapter 26, verse 11, as a dog returns to its vomit, so a fool repeats his foolishness. I want you to get that picture in your mind for a moment. I'm sitting at a table. I'm talking about who's at your table and who you're having lunch with and who you're having coffee with. If a person walked up to your table and I know this is going to be a little bit gross for some of you, they brought a big plate of vomit and sat down at your table, there is no way you would let them stay there. And so when a fool is in your life, you should have that same type of mentality. Hey, you ain't got to go home, but you need to get up out of the seat, and you do not get a seat at my table. Proverbs 10:23 says this, a fool finds pleasure in wicked schemes. The fool's the one saying, man, you just do what feels good. Because the fool trades your future passions and your future dreams and your future aspirations for whatever feels good in the moment. And so when your life goes off script, yeah, there are going to be ways that you want to cope, and there's going to be ways that you want to kind of grasp at straws to try to fix things. And the fool is going, yeah, you just do that. You just grab at that straw and you just feed that addiction and you just go in that direction. And they're never thinking about the future because they're always forsaking the future for what they want in the moment. They're the ones that are going to tell you, yeah, life's gone off script, cut corners, cheat, Yeah, life went off script. They left you. Get vengeance on them. They went off script. You disown them. You went off script. Oh yeah, it's okay. You just have to learn the hard way. Do you know that you don't have to learn the hard way? That you can actually surround yourself with other wise people, people who have further along the journey, and you can heed their wisdom, allow them to speak into you, and you can save yourself a lot of hurt, a lot of pain, a lot of heartache. You don't have to learn the hard way. What do you know about fools at your table? What can I tell you specifically about the fool when they're at their table? Proverbs chapter 13, verse 20. And sometimes it's like the end of the verse. It will be like 13:20b. It's associate with fools and get into trouble. Some translations I like even better because they use the word companion. If you're a companion with fool, you suffer harm. And it's why I am so intentional. If you're a young person, you've kind of checked me out and you're looking at your phone right now, if you could, maybe you didn't listen to anything else, could you just check back in? Because your parents will thank me afterwards for saying this. It is the reason why your parents are so concerned with who you hang out with. In fact, my kids have heard me say a gajillion times, show me your friends, I will show you your future. It's why they're so concerned, because they know you might be the wisest kid who has ever walked this earth. You might be the wisest kid in the family. You might be the wisest kid at your school. You might be the wisest kid in student ministry. You might have more wisdom than anybody else your age. But here's what Proverbs teaches us. If you are a companion with fools, you will get hurt. You will get yourself into trouble. And so that's why your parents are so concerned, because you might be the wisest person in the world. But when you're a companion of fools, guess what? The fool doesn't care about your future, and the fool doesn't care about your relationships, and the fool doesn't care about your family, and the fool doesn't care about what college you go to. The fool doesn't care about anyone but themselves. And so when you are a companion with the fools, you are setting yourself up for failure, because they don't care about your future. They only care about themselves. And so that's what's so disconcerting. That's what makes it so difficult. The third person that Solomon talks about is one that, man, I haven't run into a ton of these people, but man, when you meet these people, they are gnarly individuals. And these are the mockers. And the mockers are like fools, but they're like hyped up fools. The mockers are like the hyped up fools, and they're like, man, not only are they know what is right and they just choose not to do it, but they criticize everybody else for being wise. They criticize everybody else for making good decisions. They're the person that's bullying everybody who's trying to follow after Jesus and trying to make wise decisions. They're the person who's sitting in the back of the room making fun of the kid who's getting good grades and trying to make an effort, in their studies and things of that nature. This is the person who is condescending, and he's trying to impress people by the fact that somehow they are the smartest person in the room. Can I just tell you something? They are not the smartest person in the room. They use their cynicism, they use their condescension to control people. They use their cynicism, they use their condescension to try to control all the circumstances and belittle people and to make people feel like they are worth nothing. In fact, there's something it's interesting that's going on right now in our world, because people who are in leadership have made decisions over the last 7 weeks based on the information that they had at that particular moment. But here's what I'm recognizing, that there are leaders right now who are scared to make the next decision because there's a whole bunch of mockers who are gonna be like, yeah, but you made that decision way back there. And I'm like, hey, that's all the information they had back then. And so rather than listening to Lady Wisdom, rather than listening to the wisdom around them, they're scared because they're afraid of being mocked. And when your life goes off script and you have mockers at your table, you will be afraid to make the next best decision for yourself, the next wise decision for yourself. When a mocker is at your table, they will not only mock you, they will mock everybody else who is at the table. They will look at everybody else and they will create chaos and fighting and dissension around people who actually care about you. So if you've got wise people at your table, but one mocker, he will destroy she will destroy the environment of that wisdom. In fact, Proverbs 22:10 talks about this. It says, throw out the mocker and fighting goes too. Quarrels and insults will disappear. Some of you have mockers sitting at your table right now, and you can't figure out why you can't hear wisdom from the people that you know are really great people around you. Why you're too afraid to make that decision. Toxic people toxic people around us need to get up from our table, and sometimes need to be told to get up from our table so that we can have a better trajectory when life goes off script. The final person that Solomon talks about is the wise person. And while the simple person won't have any really wisdom for you, and the fool will lead you astray, and the mocker will criticize you, the wise person they don't look at their job through any other lens other than they are there to help guide you. That's their heartbeat. And what I love about that is they're the person that are at your table, they're at your table, and they have your best interest in mind. And here's what it says. You just need to get those people around you. You need to identify who they are, who are those godly, wise people around you. Get them around you. Give them a seat at your table. Again, going back to Proverbs chapter 13, the very first part of the second half of the verse talks about fools. The first half of the verse says, walk with the wise and become wise. Because when you're walking with someone you're talking, you're building relationship with them. And so these are the people who have been there, have wisdom, and they came out on the other side of a situation or a circumstance or a difficulty, or they have wisdom with marriage or parenting or jobs or finances or any number of things, and they've navigated those waters in healthy ways. And then they come to you, and all they want to do is they want to pour that wisdom into you. They want to encourage you. They're there for you. And this is where friendships are born. In fact, C.S. Lewis said this: friendship is born at that moment when one person says to another, "What? You too? I thought I was the only one." Think about that for a moment. If you had somebody who was wise, who took a seat at your table and said, "Hey, I've been through what you're going through. I can relate to what you're going. Can I share with you what God did in my life? Can I share with you how I navigated that in a healthy, God-fearing way?" And when people come into your life with that type of posture, and again, older generations, sometimes, again, we got to be careful that we don't come with a posture of condescension, but a posture of, I have your best interest in mind. I love you. I've been through it. And I want to help you navigate this, not as just somebody who is somehow up here and you're down here, but as a friend, as somebody who cares about you. And so when you're looking at the people who are wise, again, some of the things that we can look for, characteristics, are people, again, who have your best interest in mind. They're your support system, but they're your support system because they're focused on the right thing. They have the same goals, the same vision, the same desires, the same godly heart that you want to have. I'll have people come into my office sometimes and they're wrestling through their marriage, and I'll ask them, who are they hanging out with? Who are they seeking wisdom from? And they'll tell me, hey, well, I talked to this person and they're on their, multiple marriage or something like that. Now I talked to this person and they're, they didn't get good grades over here, and it's a student trying to figure things out. I talk to someone and say, hey, and that's time out. Find people who have navigated those situations and either learned from them and become healthier because of it, or have navigated those in really healthy ways if you're going to invite them to speak into your life. Make sure they have the same goals. If you're struggling through a marriage and you have a single person saying, hey, no, you do what you want, that's not the person you want to surround yourself with. You want to surround yourself with the person that said, yeah, marriage is challenging, it's tough, but here's how you can navigate it in a healthy and strong way. Not just survive it, but thrive within it. Who's your support system? And can I encourage you something? And specifically, again, I'm thinking maybe it's because my daughter's getting ready to go off to college, and I know she's listening right now, and so I just want all of her and all her friends to hear this. You need to develop your support system before a crisis happens. Like before, because when a crisis happens, then you just start grasping at straws and kind of, it's musical chairs again. Whoever's in the room at the moment sits down at your table, and they may or may not be the right person. And so here you are getting ready to step into adulthood and go off to college or go into a new business or any number of things that are happening in your life right now. And you need to ask yourself, who are the people that I want to build my support system with? Because crisis will happen. And when it happens, when life goes off script, I want to make sure that the right people who are wise are already at my table. You were never meant to walk alone. You weren't meant to figure out this world on yourself. So you don't have to apologize for it. It's not like, oh, well, yeah, but I'm 18. I'm a grown man. I'm a grown woman. Right now, I don't need, no. You were never meant to navigate this world alone. In fact, the very first time in Scripture that God says that something is not good, it's when he sees man, he says, it is not good for man to be alone. And so we are created for relationship with God and relationship with one another. A while back, I was watching a tennis match of Serena Williams. I was just watching the highlights from it, and she got a penalty. And her penalty was that that her coach apparently had coached her from the stands. And that's illegal in a tennis championship match like that. I thought about that. I'm like, I am so glad that life is not like that. I'm so glad that I can have people in my cheering section and they can be at my table and they can coach me along the way so I don't make mistakes that I could save myself from. And so fill your table with wise, godly people. Think about this. Think about all the times in your life that God has provided for you or spoke wisdom from somebody, whether it's through a book or whether it's through a pastor or whether it's through a friend or a grandparent or any number of people where they spoke wisdom into and it came through another follower of Jesus. Somebody who had your best interest in mind. And sometimes we're going, God, my life's gone off script. I need you to speak to me. And we're just waiting for God to kind of speak audibly. Do you know what would happen? I'll just be honest for myself. If God spoke audibly to me, I would freak out. I would. I'd be like, oh no, what did I do? And so I'm not looking for God to speak audibly. Here's what I've learned. God speaks all the time through godly, wise people that I invite to my table and I seek wisdom. People who can sit down at my table that I've surrounded myself with. I'm not talking about the people who come to you and say, I got a word from the Lord for you. And no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about people who know you, who desire to see God's best in your life, who want to see your marriage thrive, your business thrive, who want to see your college career thrive. And you start going, hey, I want this person at my table. They have my best interest in mind. And they look at you and they say, you know what? I see God's hand upon you. And they call out gifts and graces and direction and provide some instruction for us along the way. The entire book of Proverbs begins with this imagery of what the author calls Lady Wisdom. And so in Proverbs chapter 1, 32 through 33, I want to read you this. For the waywardness of the simple will kill them, and the complacency of fools will destroy them. But whoever listens to me will live in safety and be at ease, without fear of harm. When we seek to have people at our table, if we allow the simple, and it says that their simpleness will kill them, guess what? That shrapnel is going to hit us. If we allow the fool to sit at our table, it says complacency will destroy the fool. Guess what? That shrapnel is going to hit us. The mocker, the shrapnel is going to hit us. But when we have the wise sit at our table, they provide safety to be at ease. And we live without fear of harm. Who are you going to have at your table? Because life will go off script. Who will be at your table when it does? Let me pray for you. Heavenly Father, I lift up those listening, God. God, in every generation, we are constantly trying to navigate life when it goes off script. And in every generation, we need wise, godly people at our table speaking into our lives with wisdom, helping us to see things we didn't see, giving us direction where we didn't see a pathway forward. And so, God, I pray right now for the numerous situations that are being prayed over, for the numerous crises and uncertain territory that people are trying to navigate. I pray that they would seek out the right people at their table and that they would have the humility to listen. We ask all these things in Jesus' powerful name. Amen.
I won't bow to idols. I'll stand strong and worship you. And if it puts me in the fire,